Good morning, maker friends. I'm really excited you're joining me today. My name is Carrie, and I've got a YouTube channel called Mama Dares to DIY, where I do a lot of fun and super crazy and creative DIYs. If you haven't checked that out, be sure to head over to YouTube and find me there. Give it a like if you like what you see. Y'all, today I'm going to be taking over a maker studio with a project that is a little bit out of my wheelhouse. I'm not super familiar with this medium, but it's something brand new that Amy has created. So when she asked me to come up with a fun project for y'all using this new medium, of course I jumped in true Mama Dares to DIY fashion, even though I know absolutely nothing about it. Are you ready to see what we're going to be using today? Let me grab it. It's right over here on my workspace. Y'all, we are going to be playing around with Amy's brand new acrylic glacier resin. Y'all, this resin is super easy to work with. I did go ahead and do a sample project just so I would not be coming up into this totally clueless. I was a little bit intimidated at first to use this resin. I'm going to be using a brand new silicone mold also, and look at this. It's called Dream. This is one of my favorite things to do, is to dream. You never know what you can do if you don't dream. I know sometimes working with new things can be a little bit intimidating, but y'all, if I can do this, you can too. So let's hop on the workspace and let's get started. Okay, y'all, before we get started, safety first. I've got my gloves already on. You want to protect your hands from the resin. And you also want to make sure you've got a mask. How much fun is it to finally use a mask for something that is actually fun and creative for a change? So let's go ahead and put that on. Okay, so this is what we are going to be using today. We've got our Dream mold. I love the size of this. The font is super pretty too. We've also got our part A and part B of our Glacier resin. This resin, y'all, wait until you see how easy it is to work with. Even if you are a newbie like me, you can do this. We've got a couple of silicone cups here. These are really nice because you've got your measurements on the sides here, and it's really easy to read, and it's going to be super easy to clean up because they're silicone. I've got a little popsicle stick here so we can stir everything with, and I've also got a couple of mica powders, y'all. This mica powder is so pretty. We've got a pearl that has a little bit of a gold undertone to it, and we've also got the azure color. This is a gorgeous blue color, and I'm also going to finish it off with a little bit of gold leafing if we have time, and I think we will today. And if you are not already familiar with where I live at the beach, so I just ran over to the beach and I picked up some seashells that are super tiny. Look how cute these are. I'm really excited to use these today. Isn't that precious? I've also got some sand here, and y'all, this is going to be a really fun project. So we've got our mold here, and the way that you want to mix up your resin is you want to do equal parts. So we've got parts A and part B. And the packaging on this just pretty. Like, have you ever seen a resin this pretty before? Amy did a really amazing job with the packaging. Now, I do want to mention part B is a lot less thick. See how much thinner this is? Part A is pretty thick, so when you're pouring this into your resin cups, you want to be super duper careful. Part A is going to take a little bit longer to come out. So I'm going to start off with 10 ml of each part. I'm going to pour my part A into one of my cups. You can see it is just a little bit thicker. Might have to move it out of the camera just so I can see this without having to turn it on its side. Now, when you pour your part A, you're going to want to let it set for just a second because it is a little bit thicker. I'm not sure if you can see it from that angle or not. I don't want to turn it on its side because I need to know the exact measurement. But you want to make sure that you don't go over your line. You want to let it just settle for just a second. That was one thing I did notice when I did my test piece. Okay, so here is my 10 mLs of Part B. I did have to pour these off camera just because my eyes are a little bit old and I needed to be sure to see these without having to tip this over. So one thing that I do want to mention that is super duper important is you want to be sure to put the top that goes on the part back on that same part. So don't mix up Part A and put it on Part B's top. That is super important. So I'm going to put my tops back on both of these and just move these out of the way. If you're just now joining us, we are playing around with Amy's brand new Glacier Acrylic Resin, and it is super exciting. We've got an equal part of Part A and Part B, and we'll pour these into our silicone cup. Next, we want to make sure that we mix up these parts really, really well. I like to pour the Part B, which is the thinner one, into Part A just because it is thinner. These little silicone cups are so easy to work with. The first time I worked with a different brand of acrylic, I admit it was a little bit hard. I mean, not acrylic, resin. It was a little bit hard because I didn't have these nice silicone cups. But Amy has thought of everything for us, y'all. So we'll just very carefully pour those parts in together. And next we're going to stir. There's a trick when you stir. You don't want to just whip it up and make like a bunch of air bubbles. You just want to stir slowly. And you want to be sure to stir your resin for at least 3 minutes. It's something about the chemical process that goes on when these two materials come together. So it is super important that you stir for at least 3 minutes. Set a timer if you need to. If you're working in your kitchen, you can set your microwave timer. But it's super important to mix for 3 minutes. You're going to have a working time of about 20 minutes before your resin really starts to harden up. So don't panic and think, oh my gosh, I've got to hurry up and do this. You do have just a few minutes to work with this. I've actually got one already done off camera, so I'm just going to swap these out. Okay. And you're going to notice that it's a lot thinner once you get it mixed up. It's really going to be kind of super thin. Can you see that? So let's just clean this off. Just going to scrape this on the side here. And I'm going to lay it down on my silicone mat. And one thing I really love about these little silicone mixing glasses is it's got this nice pour spout. So when you're doing these small molds like this, it makes it super easy to pour. Just going to go in really quickly and cover the bottom with a thin layer. This first layer I do want to be really thin just because I want it to be clear. So when I set my sand and my seashells in that, it's going to be nice and clear. If you wanted to do this just one clear color without encapsulating your seashells and your sand in there, you can definitely do that. But you know me, I have to dare to be a little bit different. Okay, so that is our clear layer. I'm just going to give it a little bit of tap and just bring any of those air bubbles up to the top. I'm going to make sure that your resin is all leveling. This is a self-leveling resin, so that is super nice. And I know it may not look like anything to you on camera because this resin is super duper clear. But y'all, it's going to be so pretty when we're done. So again, tap and we're going to let it set. Now, if you went ahead and you dropped your seashells into your resin while it was really liquidy like this, then your seashells would automatically sink to the bottom, and that would make them sink. That would be the top when it's flipped over. So I'm going to let this set up for about 15 minutes. I've actually done one already off camera, so I'll just swap those out for you just so we don't have to wait on this. We don't have 15 minutes to wait, but I do want it to be just a little bit thickened up, so that way my seashells and my sand are encapsulated in between those layers. I don't want them to sink all the way to the bottom, or the top in this case. So let's just swap these out and we can move on without having to wait. Okay, so this is the one that I did before we got started, just so you didn't have to wait for this to set up, because it does take about 15 minutes for that gelling action to start. So now I just want to take a few of my tiny little seashells, and I just want to drop these into place. If you don't have seashells, you could really put anything in here. You could actually not even put anything at all. If you just want it to be clear, or if you wanted to maybe put some glitter, that would be kind of pretty. But living at the beach, y'all know, gotta have my seashells. Look at this tiny little baby olive. The olive seashells are my husband's favorite, so I always pick up those every time I see them. Normally they are really, really big. Aren't they cute? So I'm just gonna put these randomly all over the place. Might even stick some on their sides, and when I fill that up with my next layer of resin, it will show through. Y'all, the main thing when you're working with the resin is just to have fun. Don't be scared of it. I know, I totally admit I was a little bit intimidated by resin. I don't know, I think it's just the thought of the chemical process that kind of made me a little bit nervous. But y'all, it's actually really fun. Look at this little baby one. Oh, it's so stinking cute. I like this one too. I'm the crazy person that loves broken seashells. I don't know why. I think they are just so pretty. Look at this one. Let me see if I can get this one to fit down in here. Actually, let's put that one there. And it's up to you. You can just use your clear resin. You don't have to put anything in it at all. I just think it's fun. You could actually even fill up the entire thing with seashells. This one's got a little barnacle on it, so I want to make sure that I turn that to the side so that barnacle can be seen. Just remember, when you're working with these, even though it's on the bottom, it's actually going to be the top when we take it out of our mold. I did play around with this last night, so I would have a finished one for y'all to see, and it turned out so pretty. I'm putting a little bit more seashells in it today than I did in the one that I played around with last night, because, I mean, let's be honest, there's no such thing as too many seashells, right? I'm not going to go all the way up because I do plan on tinting my next layer of resin. Just want to make that part be totally blue. Let's see if I have any more tiny little babies that I could stick in here. And if you're working with something really small like this, it is a great idea to get a little pair of tweezers. Okay, so can you see those seashells down in there? See how they are still kind of staying on the top? That's because we let that resin set for just a few minutes. It hardened up so that way our shells didn't automatically sink to the very bottom. So I have gone ahead and mixed up another batch of my resin. And this time I did 20 mLs of each one. I want to fill up the rest of my mold here, and I want to make sure that I have just enough. Now, for this next layer, I do want to add a little bit of color and also a little bit of sparkle. But y'all, when I say a little bit, I mean the tiniest little bit you will ever imagine. Depending on the opacity that you want your project to have, you can use a little bit or a lot. So you can either take a little toothpick and add just a drop of color in there, or you could put a little bit on the end of a paintbrush. We're just going to mix this up. And I'll be totally honest, I don't want this color to be completely mixed up. I kind of want it to have a little bit of those chunks in there, just so that it kind of gives it more of a little depth to it. If you want everything to be solid, you can definitely just mix it all the way up. But I don't. I want it to have that variation. And I just want it to have a hint of color. I still want to be able to see through it. So that's why I'm not adding a lot. I really suggest when you're adding your color, you do it a tiny little bit at a time. A little definitely goes a long way. And don't forget to scrape the sides. When you're mixing up your color, you want to definitely scrape your sides with your popsicle sticks. Okay, that's kind of giving me the look that I want. Look at this. See how you can see those different variations of blue? That's what I'm going for. So now we're just going to pour this layer right on the top of the one that we just did. And the one that I did last night for y'all, I went a little bit heavier with my azure color. So you will notice when I show you the finished product, it is just a little bit darker. But for this one, I wanted something a little bit different. That's the great thing about crafting. You can always do something different every time. And experiment and play around with things. Don't get stuck in a rut doing the same thing over and over and over again. So this mold is full now. If you're just now joining us, we are playing around with Amy's brand new Glacier Acrylic Resins. These are brand spanking new, and they are really super fun. Don't forget, let me know, are you watching us live or are you catching this on a replay? Also, where are you joining us from? If you are not familiar, I live in Panama City Beach, Florida, hence the reason I am working on a seashell project today. I literally went and picked these up in my front yard. I want to get just that last little bit of resin off of my popsicle stick. I don't want to waste anything at all. Okay, so next I'm going to take a tiny little paintbrush and watch what I'm going to do with this. I'm just going to put a little bit of this pearl on here, and I just want to tap it. Just want to add just a little bit of sparkle inside here without being too much. You could also take your little toothpick if you wanted to swirl that around, and I actually may do that for y'all so you can see what it looks like. This pearl is so pretty. It almost has like a gold tint to it. So I'll just clean off this paintbrush. And I want to do the same thing with my azure. But I don't want a lot of it. I just want just a little bit. And it looks super light at the moment, but once it all starts curing and our resin starts to cure, you can really see the azure come through. Okay, now I'm just going to take my toothpick and just blend that in just a hair. I want just a little bit of sparkle. Now, you are going to have to be patient. That's one thing that is a little bit hard for me. I'm a sort of an impatient crafter. I like instant gratitude. But y'all, patience is going to be your virtue with this. You're going to need to do this one evening when you're watching your favorite TV program, and then you're going to just let this dry. We're going to need to let this set for about 10 or 12 hours. This is a super thick mold, so it is going to take just a little bit to cure. But y'all, I'm not going to make you wait for 12 hours before you see what this looks like, because I actually made one of these last night so that y'all could see the finished product. Are you ready? Are you ready? Oh my gosh. Okay, let's look at it. Y'all, look how pretty this is. Isn't that beautiful? You can see this is what I did last night with that azure. Just by tapping it, you can see how much the color comes through when it really fully cures. Look how pretty those seashells look. I think this turned out so pretty. So I'm going to move this out of the way because I don't want to wreck this. And you can see I showed how you can put a little bit more of your coloring, your mica powders in there, and you can get a darker color. The one that we did today on camera, it is a little bit more translucent because I didn't add as much of my mica powder in there. But y'all, isn't that pretty? So now I want to add my finishing touches, and that's going to be with our gold leaf. And y'all, if you've never worked with gold leaf before, you are totally missing out. It is definitely one of my favorite things that I have started playing around with. I'm going to take off my gloves though, because I don't think that would go very good with my gold leaf. So I've got the gilding size and I've got some gold leaf here. We're just going to open up our gilding size. I do like to save the protective cover just so I can put it back on and keep my gilding size from drying out. Now, you've got a couple of different options for your gold leaf. If you want to do just the edges, you can definitely do that. I think it would even be pretty if you wanted to gild the back of the entire thing, but I just want to go around my bottom edges a little bit. I really don't want the entire thing to be gilded. I do want it to sort of be able to see that pretty resin. So I don't want to cover all of it up, but I do want to just hit a little bit of it. I want to sort of highlight some of those edges. Just along the bottom edge here. And again, I'm not going to do around the entire thing. It's going to be totally random. Oops. Now, when you're working with your gold leaf, it's going to take just a minute for it to come to tack. And if you're not familiar with the term coming to tack, that just means it's going to get a little bit sticky. We need it to be a little sticky so that our gold leaf can actually stick to it. So you're going to need to wait just a few minutes. It depends on the surface as to how long you need to wait. And you do have a little bit of a window there to work with. So it's going to be about a 10-minute window that you'll have. So you just need to kind of take your ring finger, and once this is set for just a few minutes, we're going to just tap it with our ring finger to see if it's ready. And when it's ready, you'll notice, see how my finger is sticking to that? That means that it has come to tack. We've got a few minutes though, so I'm not going to stress out. I'm going to put my tops back on everything. I'm trying to be better with being a messy crafter. Now, when you're working with your gold leaf, you want to leave it in your packages like this, the little orange sheets. That's what we're going to hold onto it with, because if you've got tack on anything, it will definitely stick to that. So don't go ahead and rip off all of this, because you'll have a mess on your hands. I'm just going to hold this in one hand. We're just going to let it stick. Wherever we've got our gold leaf, then that's where it's going to stick to. It also helps to take a little paintbrush if you don't want to get your fingers dirty. Look how pretty that is. So if you can see where you've got your sizing there. So you just want to take your gold leaf and stick it to it. If you have any sizing on your fingers, it is definitely going to stick to that too. I've got one little piece right over here. Let's move this out of the way. And I'm going to take my paintbrush and I'm just going to flick this off. And the gold leaf is going to be stuck to everywhere we had sizing. If you wanted to, like I said before, you can definitely do the entire thing, but that really wasn't the look that I was going for. I wanted it to be totally random. And y'all definitely save all of these tiny little pieces of your gold leaf, because you can use them on another project. To be honest, it would even be pretty if you wanted to drop some gold leaf down in your resin. You could encapsulate some of that gold. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Okay. And the very last thing that we want to do is to burnish this in. And what that looks like is we're just going to tear off one sheet of our orange tissue paper. And we just want to rub this. You want to rub your gold leaf in, and that's going to burnish it in, and it's going to stay stuck to your surface. Isn't that pretty? Now off camera, I might go around the outside, but for now, I really love the way it looks just on that bottom edge with my shells. just to give it a little bit of bling. Let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. Also, don't forget to share this with your friends so they can see how much fun we're having over here at a maker's studio. Let's be sure to say a big thank you to Amy for giving us such a gorgeous brand new medium to work with. I hope y'all are as excited about this as I am. Let me know down in the comments below, what do you think about this project that I did for y'all today? What do you see yourself putting in your mold? I think this is absolutely beautiful. What are you most excited about this new Glacier Acrylic Resin? Y'all, there's just so many possibilities going around in my brain at the moment. I can't even focus on just one. This is such an exciting time to be a maker, and I hope y'all are as excited about this as I am. That's all the time I've got for today, y'all. Thanks so much for joining me. Until next time, happy DIYing, y'all.